All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes, which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy it. Getting to the top is one thing, but staying there is another. And this week we're going back to an episode I did back in 2023 with Terry Kirkham. Now, Terry is he's a businessman, he's a football head coach, and he is used to working with people where they need to have a particular mindset, because whether it's someone that's in competitive sport, whether it's a high performer in business, it doesn't matter. They have a very similar, they have a lot of things in common about, staying at the top and constantly working on themselves and coming up against situations and having to deal with them. So I had him on talking about staying at the top, and I thought it was very relevant. Now he's coming at it from a business and from a sports point of view, but a lot of us can relate to this episode. I hope you learn from it. I hope you enjoy it. Maybe you'll take something out of it. But if you want to learn the best, you need to listen to the best. So I hope you listen. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you listen to it and take away a couple of things and maybe share this with someone that should benefit from it. So enjoy.
Yeah, you have to be able to move. And it's the same as, having professional people like yourself, advising, your clients need to make sure they're bouncing off people, because, there's so much going on. You have your headspace of, you got home life and you got business life, and then you got staff, and you've got, there's so much going on. But if you don't keep your finger on the pulse as to, what you're actually doing within your business, and having the right people around you to make sure that those areas you're very keyed up and clued up on, if you don't have those people, then a lot of people I see in distress are the ones who try and carry all the burden themselves, and that becomes a problem for you as well.
And as far as high quality, high performers are concerned, what qualities would you say, what are some of the qualities that you would say high performers normally have? Because you've highlighted on one, which is like being able to adapt and being ready to change. You've highlighted also on, doing it over a long period of time, being able to stay at the top and not just being like a one song wonder, for example.
Yeah. I think that, just in my experience, it's been just a dedication to what I'm doing. And when I look at some other personal friends of mine who in the last 3 or 4 years have succeeded in their businesses and are currently succeeding extremely well, I sort of put it down to two people. There's two types of people in the world, in my view. There's the employee and the employer. And the employer is the entrepreneurial one, and you've got to have a lot of determination. You need to have a very, very thick skin. You've got to have a supporting mechanism very close to you, so your inner circle being family and advisors and certainly family. And I think that to be a high performer, to get to the top, you have to work hard. You have to train hard. To be in business, you do that. But when you get there, sometimes you might realise that, I might be number one now, but to move forward for the next few years, I don't need to be number one. I can drop back to number 4, reinvent myself, and then then maybe the 5-year plan is to be number one again. I've probably done that 3 times in my 30 years, and I'm currently in a position now where, I haven't aimed to be number one. I've consolidated, and yet financially I'm probably doing better than what I was 8 or 9 years ago when I strived to be number one in my industry. So I think, they're also two, big key qualities that you need to have, and that I would classify as a high performer. And let's face it, you look at the bands and you look at music for sure. Have a look at the bands that are currently touring now the world. you've got the Motley Crues, the Def Leppards, the Rolling Stones has just released a new song. These guys, continue, but what they do is they continue to work hard. And everyone might just see them on stage and think it's easy. I don't think it'd be that easy for those guys whatsoever. There's massive financial risks for them all, and they have to reinvent themselves. And that's probably the best thing that I could say is that a lot of times you have to reinvent yourself when you get to number one, and you might need to take a back step for a few years or change direction, reinvent yourself, come back again, and use your experience to get you there.
And of course, an employee can be a high performer as well. Like it's from the
100%.
career-wise.
Yeah, and don't mean that, and don't take that to the offence of anyone thinking, that's it's that those two types of people. That is a fact, though. There is two types of people that's just my view of the world. But there are many, many, many high performers that come under management that is their role because they're focusing on that role. They don't have to focus on running a company. They don't have to focus on the financials. They don't have to focus on a lot of things. There's a lot of high performing people that are unbelievable managers. And again, I know some people managers and business development managers and very, very good skilled people that are excellent in what they do. And again, they all have to work hard. They have to focus. And for those guys to get to the top and be at the top, they need the respect and of the people that are above them. And once you've got that, Ange Postecoglou, perfect example. He was just in an interview talking about his management at Tottenham Hotspurs in England at the moment, and as he said, critical that his relationship with his chairman at every club is based on the respect that they can give him, but he has to earn their respect, and he works extremely hard to earn their respect. They allow him then to go and make decisions, and they back him to make decisions, which then brings success. Now, he doesn't own the football club; he's an employee. Every manager's an employee. I have to work as a head coach in football clubs as an employee at every job, but I have to work hard to get the respect of the supporters and everyone. And so I'm an employee there, and then in my own business world, I'm an employer.
And as a head coach of a football team, your job, or one of your many jobs, is to get the best out of people and
yes.
to help people do better. And sometimes it's a mindset thing. I mean, one would argue it's 80% of the time a mindset thing. But what I want to ask you is, how can someone work on these particular qualities of being a high performer? Because there could be someone listening to this that, they think they're a high performer, but they want to do better. There are some that don't really feel like they're performing as well as they should be, and they want to be that person, or they want to be the best version of themselves. What is just, again, I'm sure there are hundreds of these things, but what are just some of the main things that you think that someone should really focus on, work on to get there?
We'll start on the second one. The people that, if anyone's out there listening now and you're in a position where you want to strive to get to the next level and you're working away no matter where you're at in that position, it's having the right people around you. When I look back on my career, I didn't really realise that the people that were around me in football and in business, who were much older than me, who gave me the time of day, who I could shake the hand and be around. I look back when I was in my 20s, and there was a number of key people that supported me and backed me. But the thing was, I thrived off them. I made sure that I surrounded myself with them. I wasn't hanging out with my mates and listening to what they had to say about the world. I used these guys as mentors. I only started to talk about the mentor world to me probably in the last 10 years because these guys are now 20 years older than me. I've just turned 53 last week. When I look back now and I look at these guys, they're 60 to 70. But that's who I was surrounding myself with all the time. And those people helped me dramatically. They opened doors. They backed me and supported me. So I would have said that if you're in that position now and you can find the people in your networks who you can look up to, I would suggest that would be a very, very key start. Now, the problem is that, not all of us can afford to go and get business coaches and have paid mentors to be around us. I certainly never could have, never did, and never really thought about that world. However, I've got some friends of mine now who have paid business coaches and life coaches, and they help them dramatically. They tell me all the time. But I've tried that. Even in the last 2 years, I've tried that, and it's very expensive. And I tried it just recently. So I think identifying people that you can go and show plenty of respect to, they'll give you the respect back. And if you can get around those types of people, that'd be a big thing. Now, if you're already there and you think you're doing well and you're booming along, again, your networks are critical, and people that have been there and done it, if you can get around those people that are 5, 10, 15, 20 years with more experience than you, and you can get into their little networks in their groups or become close to them, just from feeding off those people in conversations, in just the way they handle things, in my opinion, is critical. It's like when I sign a 32 or 35-year-old footballer, and I bring the 17-year-old, and I build a team of average age of 19, 20, 21, 23. I've always had experience with success by making sure that we've got those experienced players and having the young boys and the young players coming through the change rooms, as I did. And I remember when I was 16 in a senior environment, 15 and 16, I still remember to this day every key senior player that was in their 30s by face, by name. And you know what? They still know me as well. So it's the same in the business world. I've got mentors in the business world who are now in their 60s and 70s, liquidators, lawyers. I don't work for them much anymore, I don't. But when I see them, if I'm in Melbourne and I see them, it's always acknowledgement, and it's always hello, and it's a coffee. Those relationships have never, ever changed. And without those relationships, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today.
I like that you brought that up, because I've talked about it plenty of times, and I think I very recently did an episode on this, but just the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. And I always say, if you surround, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's a really famous saying, and it's something I always talk about, because it's me personally, I've never been one that's been too embarrassed to ask for help. Whether it's as an advisor, career-wise, or just as a human being, if there's something I need help with, like I'm always one to sort of put my pride away and just ask for help. And to be honest with you, most people, when you ask for help, they're not really going to say no. Like, unless the person's really too busy. Most of us, unless they get 100 requests a day, most people really appreciate the fact that somebody's gone out of the way and had the guts to say, hey, listen, I really need help with this thing that you do really well. Do you mind giving me 10 minutes of your time, or do you mind helping me out? And even as a financial planner, I talk about this in our profession a lot, but as advisors, we tell clients how important getting advice is. And we value advice. We know it's important, financial advice, but very rarely do we get advice ourselves, whether it's business coaching or becoming a better advisor, or just in general, because most people think, okay, they're paying for something that they can probably do themselves. And I think financial advice is probably the same. I talk to clients all the time, potential clients who've never had advice before. And initially they say, look, I've never thought I've needed it. But then after we talk, they're like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Like, there's a lot more to this than I thought. And I just love that you talked about that, because as a coach, you probably, I'm singing, I'm speaking to the choir here. I'm preaching to the choir as well. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.
But I think just for the people listening to your podcast, that the main thing about, when we start talking about financials, it's not just about, the money of making money or losing money or investing in it. It's making sure that their structure is well sound as well. And, if people are going into business, they need to make sure that they can talk to people like yourself where their home life is not set up in their business life. And there's so many different areas of financial planning that I see where a lot of inexperienced people, don't have themselves set up with their structures, and accountants, and sometimes a lot of accountants, they do their tax. That's what they focus on. So I think, again, everything we can do now, a lot of what I'm finding is just in my industry, when I grew up, we didn't have internet. I've transitioned through running a business and owning a business from the very basic start of a computer to now having a very prominent online auction business where our auctions are now all online and goes to the world. And you can get a lot of information now by just jumping on your phone, where I think I got my grounding because I actually had to pick up the phone. I would pick up the phone and ring senior valuers of other firms who were 10, 20 years older than me. And if I didn't understand something, I could ring them and I would always get the time of day. Now, I can tell you now in my industry, I've been around, say, 37 years. I don't think I've had a younger valuer or a valuer call me in 10 years from any firm. And today we rely on data. We can get on and look at data, and we can rely on things off the internet. The practical outcomes, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that what you're reading is the true picture of the matter that you're dealing with. So being able to pick up the phone or going to see someone still is a major lesson that we can give our kids, because I see now in younger people, I believe the respect world has changed dramatically. And I think that the kids now, especially, kids at high school and maybe 10 years older, now all rely on data and what they can pick up off the internet. But I still think it's very, very vital that the practical approach to being able to go to people and deal with people directly and meet their mentors and be able to understand things in communication can help people be far more advanced than say the people that can't communicate with people. I think that's very important.
And why do you think a lot of people don't get advice? Do you think maybe they just think everyone's too busy for them? Do you think probably it's pride?
I think it's cost. I just know myself. I think that understanding who to go to directly and be able to understand, who can they can talk to. I think it's very important, again, this personal relationship. I have personal relationships with my advisors. I just don't talk to them every now and again. I see them. I'll have a coffee with them and it may be 2 or 3 times a year, but that personal relationship's been then built over many, 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 many years. And it's just critical that we're not just becoming a society now where, I can get on the internet and become my own business advisor and my own, we don't learn a lot. As I said, when you think back now, and even as directors, I look at directors of companies all the time. I've had 4 jobs in today. Perfect example. I've had 4 different jobs in today. I had 5 in last week. Now, these are all businesses across many different landscapes, from cafes to scaffolding business, an engineering business, an earth-moving civil works company. I look at things and I think to myself all the time, when I see the problems that a lot of people are in, where did they get their advice, and how was their advice before they got to this stage? Because you don't learn how to be a company director anymore. You can just go get a company. They don't teach you that. So unless you go to university and you're highly academic in the finance world, well, you're on your own, really, aren't you? You're looking at your money and you're going, okay, I have to pay super. So it just goes into whoever the super fund you get put into. And, a lot of people don't even have control over that. So, again, I think, that you need to make sure that you can build that personal relationship with someone like yourself, and those personal relationships by face-to-face and understanding and growing with that person over time can help you dramatically. And I look at all facets of my career, the speaking circuits, the sporting circuits, the business circuits, the financial world, all those people I have relationships with. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't have those personal relationships with all those people. I'm sure of it.
Are there any examples you can give as well? Anything that comes to mind, whether it was a team you were coaching or someone that you were dealing with, where it took them having that right person to just for that massive change to occur, for that significant impact on their lives to just happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe something someone can just probably learn from listening to this, because me, I love examples. I steal from examples. I steal ideas from examples. It's the only way we grow.
Yeah, I think the amount of people I've sat in front of now for the past probably 15 years, where that I've had to sit in front of people in business who have just been told they've lost everything, and they've got home life to worry about and all that sort of thing. And there's been a number of cases of people where I still have relationships with them, even though technically I'm there winding them up and taking their business and their assets and selling them. But I've been able to become quite good at managing those situations, and I've seen many people turn it around. And sometimes you just have to sit there practically with people face to face and go, hey, listen, let's just draw some squares. And the biggest thing I can say to anyone going through any form of restructuring, or just even in normal life, though, you can go and write out some squares and put a line down the middle and your positives and negatives, and write your negatives down in different boxes and put your positives down. And all of a sudden you get a good picture of where you're at with things. Because we bottle up so much stuff in our heads. If you think about, what you go through in a day, how many emails you write and the complications you've got, and then, where you are investing and where's your tax and how's life going, you've got the kids and you've got to do the groceries this week, all this sort of stuff. I say to directors now, look, let's go back to the start. When you get up on Monday morning, what's the first thing do you think about? And what's the first thing do you worry about? What's the first thing that you're responsible for that week? And no one ever answers the question correctly. So I put it into a square and I said, well, when you get up Monday morning, the first thing is that your home life is a business. That's before you start. You have to have income and outgoings, and you've got to start worrying about home first, and then you move off into work world or business world and start dealing with your squares there. And when you actually put it all down, it's actually quite complicated. A lot of people don't realise when you put it out of your head onto paper, actually how complicated your day and your week and your months are. No matter, even if you're a mum, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of mums around that are at home that have to run a household, and if they put it actually down into their squares, there's a lot of stuff that everyone has to do. So I try and look at it that way. And I've sat there with many directors and gone through these squares, and by the time we've had that half an hour conversation, they've got a smile on their face because it gives them some sort of direction in front of them on paper. And I've seen guys, and there's a particular gent, and they owned a very large earth-moving business, and I went to his house. His house had just been emptied. The removalists had taken everything out of the house. I was there to repossess his boat. We had already started repossessing all his trucks and excavators, and there's a lot of gear. And I sort of came quite close to this guy. He was very shaky, and he wasn't in a good way. He was on all sorts of meds and massively depressed and whatever else. And I'd put my arm around him and put my hand on his shoulder and walk him out of the house. And I sort of made him some contacts and some intros into some other people within that industry. And that's now 4 years ago. I helped him set up with another gent that went broke around the same time, and I introduced them both together. I got them into a hotel and said, why don't you boys get together and get started on something yourselves? You've got the contacts. They're both, in their 50s. I received an email on LinkedIn about 4 weeks ago from this particular gentleman, and he's told me that they've just won a couple of major contracts. Thank you very, very much. If it wasn't for those directives and those simple squares, he wouldn't be where he is today.
So really having someone come in from an outside and having the right person in their corner, giving them that direction, just help them sort of just look at things differently and, and have a different approach to things. And that's had a massive impact. I mean, it sounds like something I've seen. It sounds like, I can give examples with clients, similar thing financially, just having someone come in from an outsider's perspective. And and the thing is, like, the more and more we're talking, the more I'm finding a lot of the questions I'm asking, the answer, not that it's the only answer, but it always ends up coming back to having the right person or the right people around you to help you make the right decisions. And
100%. And
that environment that you're in as well.
And 100%. I tell you what, I've just gone through a bit of a life change and relationships and everything just recently. And one of the things I've had to do is, I notice now, like, if I look at Facebook, for an example, and the amount of stuff that keeps coming up about, quotes and all this stuff that comes through social media now, where, this stuff gets into your head, and you're being directed by what you're seeing and what you're reading through social media. And I've had to start blocking. And, I must have blocked 20 different sets of quotes in the last week alone, of just things that come up through social media that actually distract you. And now I've just turned it off. And since I've done that, I'm back to my own business model and my own plan and my own squares. And it's funny how I'm just purely now focusing on what I need to do every day. And I've removed myself away from all that sort of type of, income that's coming into your head. So again, I think practicality, and I'm back to that word of practicality, is massively important in when you want to go somewhere, and staying away from what's being put in front of you, not by your choice, by what pops up in front of you, is very important. And I think this personal relationship model and this face-to-face communication with the right people around you is critical today as it was 50 years ago.
Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.